Streaming live via the internet. Welcome to ISP Radio, your weekly source for ISP-related news, events, and interviews with industry experts. If you deliver internet via fiber optic, wireless, coax, or any other way, you're in the right place. Chat live with us weekly via ispradio.com every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And now a brief word from our sponsors. Link Technologies, providing ISP consulting, support, and hardware for wireless ISPs. TowerCoverage.com, providing online RF coverage maps. And now your host for ISP Radio, Steve Grabiel and Dennis Burgess.
Welcome to another edition of ISP Radio. I'm your host, Steve Grabiel, and broadcasting from Moriarty, New Mexico, and Dennis Burgess, the producer of the show and co-host of the show, is broadcasting from St. Louis. Well, out here in New Mexico, it's cloudy. It looks like England, and it's cold. It's like winter here. I mean, come on now. It's supposed to be summer, or getting to summer. But anyways, pretty dead out here. Not much going on. I did get my new directional bore drilling machine from Indiana shipped out. Got it here Monday. Now it's a matter of putting together the parts to go out there and start playing with our new toy for drilling underground, pulling in conduits and running fiber. Interesting new route this is going. So what's it like out in your neck of the woods, Dennis?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a absolutely gorgeous day here. The past I'd probably 3 or 4 days, it's just been rain and a little bit more rain and then a lot more rain. And by the way, we had some more rain, if that makes sense. So just a lot of rain over the past couple of days. Nothing, how can I put it? Nothing horrible in the aspect of storms over the past couple of days, but definitely some high, a lot of just slow, steady rain. I'll tell you what, my grass is about a forest already, so that's always good though. Not a bad thing. At any which rate, but today looks like great. I think we're going to get a little bit more rain on Thursday, Friday, and then hopefully we get to go to the. Hopefully this weekend is so far looking pretty good. So overall, not too shabby.
You've been busy with work out there?
Oh yeah. Obviously, something we're going to be talking about today is, of course, these wonderful Ubiquiti issues and the virus that has went around and all that kind of good stuff. So it's kind of bad that it actually happened, but it did happen, and that's okay. But we've had a lot of customers or a lot of clients basically go, hey, we need to figure out what we can do about it and to help them get things cleaned off, etc. But to be honest with you, most of that is dying down. We're not seeing the attacks as much as it was over the weekend, and go from there. So
tell us all about it, where it came, where this Ubiquiti thing happened, and what caused it, and what you're having to do to help people out to fix it.
Gotcha. So in all reality, we have a pretty urgent issue or a pretty big issue with Ubiquiti. Now, while I'm not going to sit there and state that this is a Ubiquiti-only thing, because it wasn't a Ubiquiti-only thing. And a matter of fact, on top of that, Ubiquiti specifically issued a warning, a security release, way back on 7/17 of 2015, specifically addressing this particular issue. So I'm just going to pop that up on the screen here for everybody to see. There we go. This is right on their security page. Nothing incorrect or anything like that. But as you can see, this is way back on 7/17/05, and basically this is a security release for a number of products. AirMax products, which is what mostly people are using for the wireless infrastructure, things like that. And then also we have things for such as the tough switches and the air gateways. So multiple product lines were affected here. AirMax AC, tough switch, and air gateway. And basically what they did is they released newer versions. Imagine that. This was and I kind of want to make sure I note this. Note, and this is back on 7/17, note, this vulnerability was reported via our hacker bug bounty program under private disclosure. At this time, we have no reason to believe that there's any leaks of this information of known exploits. In other words, a vulnerability was it was fixed way back in 7/17 of 05, or 2000. Didn't do that. A known exploit released in the wild and public that made use of this exploit. And guess what? If you hadn't upgraded, you are vulnerable. So there we go. That's basically what this is. Now, Ubiquiti responded yesterday. They actually had an upgrade to their system, but over the weekend they actually also put out a little utility called Cure Malware. It's a little Java applet thing. I don't know why people still program in Java, but I guess Ubiquiti loves Java. I guess all their engineers love Java. At any which rate, they put out a utility to do this. They specifically stated, here's what's going on. And the big problem we have here is that this allows users, or part of this exploit, allows them to upload data by using the HTTPS web server, simply by having that outdated firmware, and then legitimately running that script. So in other words, not only can they upload a script, but they can run it. Now, there's been a number of different pieces of information out there on what actually happened, what is going on, exactly where the virus or system came in, and why they're running these scripts and what it's doing. That's actually a whole nother ballpark here. But basically, they have the virus, or this malware. What happens is it gets loaded onto a device that could be infected, usually an older firmware. The device then runs this script, and the device runs the script, and the way we the information I believe we got so far, and we have not confirmed this, I haven't confirmed it, but the initial results show that a device will get compromised, especially if it has a public IP. So that's the start of that, okay? Second, once the device has been infected, it starts scanning for other things. Now, there could be other processes inside there, things such as capturing data packets from your clients, things like that. It changes and disables the web page access. It changes your password, things like that, so that you basically can't get into it without SSHing and knowing the password that was changed to. That it was changed to. That password, that username password, I'm not going to repeat here because it's in polite company, but it is known, so that's not a big deal. But basically the issue is that once it's running, it's supposed to run for a while. Now, there's different opinions on how long. 18 hours is the general consensus, but not exactly. It depends on the power of the device. It scans for other devices for it to infect. So it is very, very important that you look at that and see that it will scan your network, including privates. So once one device gets infected on your network and they're behind your firewall, then it's possible that that device could infect other devices that are not on publics. So keep that in mind. Now, once the virus or this malware runs its course, okay, what happens is it basically resets the radio. It resets the whole unit. So all of a sudden, your customer's offline. And since it's not connecting back up to your tower, guess what? You pretty much have to go there and reprogram it.
Truck roll.
Yeah, it's a truck roll. So what we're seeing most people do is they go out there, they do a recovery, and to my knowledge, the current solution is still, hey, we want to do a recovery on it. So we want to recover the firmware, like if you're going to recover the board. And then you're going to upgrade to the latest version if it's not already there, and then reset it one more time to make sure it's all good, then reprogram it. That way you can ensure that nothing else gets infected. There is a utility that Ubiquiti has put out, this Cure Malware. Currently it just upgraded to version 0.08. But the big thing in this particular case is that this allows you to scan a IP range. I'm going to tell everybody right now, it's not fast. It's not the quickest thing ever, but it's going to scan IPs. It's going to attempt to log in via SSH, and if it can, using a hacked credentials or the normal credentials, it will either attempt to upgrade it. So if it finds a device that is not upgraded, it will upgrade. If it finds a device that is infected, it will clean that said device, and there are steps to manually remove this. I'm sure it's in here, manual removal. There you go. To manually remove these systems, and then once that's done, you of course have to reboot. But the big thing here is that once you have cleaned it, then you should of course upgrade it so that it can't get infected again. You can do that during its scanning time. So while it's infected but not rebooted or not reset, you can do that. And that's what actually happened over the weekend. It was that exploit really came out over the weekend, really on Friday-ish, Thursday, Friday-ish. And then on Friday, we started seeing it. We started getting calls. We got a couple calls on Friday, and then basically everything exploded over the weekend. And then on Monday, we had an inbox full of calls, and we had worked already on the weekend to try to help people get this resolved. So there are some other ways to doing this. There's a Ubiquity app in Android you can use. I'm not too sure how that works, but there is one as well that you can use to try to remove that. Note, though, when you upgrade your unit, that you will not be able to use custom scripts anymore. So note it says that right there, disabled custom script usage. So that's basically the big hairy nutshell of what's going on or what's been going on. Now, of course, Ubiquity has also updated their Securing Air OS application here, or their page in their site, basically giving you all the information of what you should be doing, restricting access, things like that. I'm going to make it really, really simple. First off, if you're using Ubiquity radios, or really any CPE radio, and that would include Microtech, we typically want to change the management port. So in other words, instead of using port 80 and 443, maybe you change that to some custom port that you know. I also would recommend that then you block said custom port from ingressing your network if at all possible. So that basically you have to be on the inside to even get to that. And you can either further firewall those as well. But most of these exploits have been well known to cause things, especially the remote manageability. If you did not have remote management, in other words, if you had Ubiquity even did this at one point in time, is that they turned off the remote management. In other words, you had to be on the LAN side to even get to the management council, right? And that's fine. There's not a problem with that. But the big thing in that case is that Ubiquity actually went back there. And I'll actually pull this up. This is a SecurityWeek.com article back on November 6th, 2015. So last year. The SEC council actually said, hey, we really see that the remote management feature is enabled via SSH, HTTP. Are excuse me. Because of that, we found quite a few devices, and there's a whole article here, and you can of course look at it here, Google it up. Ubiquity doing this. Ubiquity actually noted that on the community forum right here that initially disabled the remote management feature, but reverted the setting after receiving numerous complaints from customers. So the SEC Council and Vulnerability Labs here also noted that we are currently not aware of any other vendor that leaves remote administration open on the WAN side per default, which poses a very high risk to end users, customers of Ubiquity networks. Again, I am not saying or not wishing to pick on Ubiquity by any means, but in all reality, this is an issue. But going way back here, again, way back, 2015, wherever this was here, We know we had the vulnerability, and we fixed it. We fixed it, almost 10 months ago? So the moral of the story here for most people is, hey, you really need to, or maybe you should, look at your devices and schedule 3 to 6 month reviews of should I be upgrading to these firmwares or not. And I know that there's been some people that specifically said, well, I need to run custom scripts. Well, then you're kind of SOL on the latest versions. But on top of that, I know some people that say, hey, I still want some of these older bands. Well, that's part of the system to correct the bands that they're not licensed to run in or that they do not have certification for. So,
right.
There you go.
So my question is, I utilize Ubiquiti quite a bit, and I pretty much keep up to date with the firmware. Pretty much whenever they release it, I upgrade them. What was and according to you, what you said, if I don't have any public facing, I'm double natted and working to go away from that. But before the show, you said that people with double nats aren't necessarily vulnerable, if you will, but you said that if one device gets it, it can manifest itself across the network, right?
Right. I mean, it's just like any other malware. It tries to, the way I understand it anyway, again, I could be wrong because all the information I have not found here is the best article or here is a rundown of everything that this thing does. But in a nutshell, it infects, runs a script. That script could do many different things, but that script also goes out and tries to infect other devices. And if that device is on your private network and that device may have access to that private network, then that could be an issue. Remember, NAT is not inherent security. Even though, yes, ports are not open typically, etc., it's still not inherent security. It's not a security mechanism, I should rephrase that. And pretty much every security expert out there will tell us that, and they agree with that. But I understand where you're at. I do know some people that probably have not upgraded and probably are not being affected because they never exposed the management interfaces to the public as in general. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not vulnerable. There's other ways that this malware, even things like Skynet, etc., can get into these things. Think of it this. Again, I do not know the entire path that this virus or this malware takes, but think of it as this: you have a computer or a customer that that's connected to your network, and they download some little malware, and now their computer is what we call a rabbit. Okay, so it is infected, and it can be used to do things at the command or the behest of somebody that's not so nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's no reason why that person can't say, okay, well, load this malware onto the machine and scan these IP ranges and try to infect it. Now they're behind your NAT.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They're behind your NAT, so again, it's not inherent security in those cases. It really kind of comes down to your best practices, what you wish to do, what you would like to do, all that kind of good stuff. So that's kind of where we're at on that particular issue.
Best practices with what we've just talked about. I mean, like I said, I keep up to date. What was the firmware that was most vulnerable for this? And I mean, if you kept up to date with your Ubiquiti firmware.
Well, I'll toss it back up on the screen here, but basically any AirMax 562 running 5511, and that's on the XM or TIs, 5510U2, or anything 562 plus.
Is it, and we should be at 565, is that?
Yeah, the 565 is what they're recommending, yes. So, and those are for the XM, the XW, and the TIs. But also, AirMax AC 713 plus, any of your older AirOS gear, which is 404, any tough switches out there, version 132, Air Gateways, those are the little products sitting, the little devices, 115 plus. So those need to be upgraded. And this is where it gets really scary. This also includes the AirFiber HDs. The AirFiber 5X is 3021 plus, and the AirFiber 5 is 221 plus. Again, all this information is readily available in the Ubiquiti forums, etc.
Oh, and one thing I find nice about Ubiquiti is when you log into a device, it'll say, hey, we got this recent firmware. Do you want to upgrade it? So I've been doing that anyways.
Yeah. You really should. You really should be doing those firmware upgrades. And like I said, I want to go back to this because I know Ubiquiti's they've responded quite well for such a large company. And I want to make sure, because I know we just had quite a few people join our session here today, but I want to make sure I point this out, is that this bug was fixed in 7/17 of 2015. Very important. This was a vulnerability that was reported by their hacker bug bounty program under private disclosure. So someone found it, reported it, and they fixed it back on 7/17/2015. What happened Friday?
Let me ask you this: they fixed it with AirMax 5.6.2?
Yes, that's what they said.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha.
So with that, they're saying they fixed it because they paid somebody that found this exploit, and that person found it and reported it to them, so they then gave that information and fixed it prior to public release. Way back down here again, there's no reason to believe that there's any leaks or of the information about this exploit. Well, guess what happened on Friday? Friday. It got released, or someone found it again and made it public, and that's why all of a sudden everybody went, holy heck, it's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, it's definitely some good information. I would always sit there and recommend to people that you ensure that your management accesses are either separated or completely firewalled. I don't like to separate them in that aspect. I don't mind putting them on VLANs or something like that, but I would rather have my local tower firewalls prevent access. So I'll use one of our good customers. They have a whole bunch of publics and a whole bunch of privates. All their customers, if they're on a private, is 1010 something. And then if they're on their publics, they're on one of their publics. And we basically state that if they're trying to, and then all their other IPs are either in routing subnets or in the 10 dots. So there's actually firewall rules on every device. If it comes in from our customer interface, basically do not allow it to any of our 10 dots. Simple as that. So even though that they have that, they really can't get to anything. They can't route through the routers to get to those. That's what that firewalling's all about.
Stuff, is that how that works?
Try that again. We kind of lost you there, and you broke up for a second.
Okay, so say utilizing your suggestion of blocking any kind of management access from the client. Say you're a technician, you go out in the field, and you're at that client's house. You cannot get into obviously the radio or the router. So what's the solution? Like setting up a VPN into your network to where you can for the technician to do that?
Yeah, I mean we've done that. Yeah, we've done that before. I mean, usually once you're at the house, usually you kind of allow management for the local device. All right,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that that's what you can do. That's one of the ways. But let's say you need to get to another device, or you need to get to your management software or something like that. Then we see some people, they term serve into a terminal server and use that machine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The more common method that we would do is a simple VPN. Hey, we VPN to a VPN subnet. That subnet is allowed to get to those management subnets.
Say you're infected with this, SANS calling you for help. What's the path forward to fix this one more time? I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier. You log into the equipment that's been defaulted and reprogram it, and what do you do again?
Well, Ubiquiti has made a utility called Cure Malware. There's also an Android app, and I think there's another method as well. I can't think of the name of it. I believe Mike Hammett published that one, but I can't think of the name of the program. At any which rate, basically what the Ubiquiti application does is it logs on via SSH, assuming it's open, and then basically processes it. Does it need to upgrade? Does it not need to upgrade? If it does need to upgrade, go ahead and upgrade it. If it's and then it checks to see if it's actually infected. If it's infected, it will cure it. In other words, remove that and then do the upgrade so it won't get reinfected.
Okay,
and it's a little
so,
Java, command line Java thing. It works decently fine. It's just not super fast.
right. So if I'm interested, I go download this Cure malware that you're showing here, and then double click on it, and then give it an IP range
It's
to
a
scan, and
command
it'll go do
line.
its thing.
It's a command line utility, so you'd have to go through the command line to do that.
Gotcha. Is there instruction on how? On
Oh
what
yeah,
you
yeah.
need
They
to
got
do?
all kinds of, here you go. Here's how to use it, and here's what you'll see, and what IPs do you want to check and cure and update, or just check and cure. What's your username, what's your password, if you need to, and then if it is infected by exploit, it will remove it, clean it, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then like I said, if it does need to be upgraded, it will prepare the update, send it, and upgrade it. As you can see,
Gotcha.
all right there. So, and it does work, but that's usually before the unit gets reset too. So, again, I'm gonna toss that back on the screen. I didn't have it on the screen there for everybody else there, but basically that's what it looks like. There's your examples of using it, etc. So pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Huh. All right. I'll try download that and scan my network, even though I'm behind the protection of a double NAT. But that's not really an excuse or even a good security measure at all.
Well, like I said, I mean, if a computer is infected, then it goes from there. It just takes one device to get infected, and then who knows? You might get a whole bunch of them that is infected at that point. So probably wouldn't hurt. It's free to do, and you can just let it scan and let it run. So you know what I'm saying? It'll take a while. So.
And in the long run, all your equipment's upgraded to the latest firmware.
There you go. Well, what I see a lot of people doing is they're using air control or using some other mechanism to upgrade their main devices to a version that is not susceptible to that, supposedly. Anyway, there's actually discussion on that, but we won't go there. And once it's upgraded, though, then like one of my customers, they upgraded everything, but they had like 4 devices that they couldn't get to upgrade. They couldn't get to the web interface. They couldn't upgrade. And I did a scan using this tool, and sure enough, they were infected, doing whatever the malware does, and we were able to cure it and upgrade them from the command line like that, from that utility. And then once it came back up, we could access them without any problem.
Gotcha.
So, big key here is that if you have Ubiquiti devices or any management device such as your radios that are on public IPs, which I'm not saying is bad or good, I think they should be on public IPs, there's not a problem with that, but those management interfaces should be blocked from the general internet access. In other words, from inside your network, who cares? That's such a small subset of users, but from the majority of the internet, especially China, etc. We're going to pick on China apparently today. But from those guys, I would definitely recommend them to be firewalled from that. In other words, they should not be. And don't leave them on the default ports if you can help it. Firewall it off. Move it from 443 to 7443. I know Ubiquiti likes to do that. Maybe make it your own port, 10873. Whatever you want, as long as you know about it.
Right. Well, I mean, this was a big problem. I think it brought a lot of business your way over the weekend, and probably some business still forthcoming. But now that I know about it, I'm going to go get this Cure malware and try it out, see if anything's infected on my end.
Yep. I would definitely take a look at that and go from there.
Well, Dennis, I think that that's all I've got for the show. I mean, it was a big news day. Also, we talked last week that WISPALOOZA is open for registration.
Yes, they are, and open nominations for WISPA board members as well.
And how many positions are being filled?
I believe there's 5.
5?
Yeah, I believe so.
So almost a mass exodus of the board.
No, I mean there's 9.
9.
Yeah.
Okay. And you got anything else for us? I think next week we got ReadyNet to talk about their managed router services or products that they have.
Yep, we have ReadyNet next week. Let's take a look here. I thought we had something else. Let's take a look at our calendar. Of course, our calendar is online. ReadyNet Managed Solutions, yeah. And then we also have Jack coming in next month in June. I think it's June 8th. Good name. The War on Unlicensed Spectrum. So that's going to be something just for him, if you know what I mean. Good stuff there.
I just talked to him, and he says he's retiring from the board as the technical person for the FCC committee.
Yeah, he's not on the board, but he's the WISPA FCC technical guru. I don't know if he's retiring. I don't know any of that information, but at any which rate, it should all be really good, and we have some good information in this particular case. So let's see how it all works out, and I'm sure we'll be
or
good.
A product or service you want to talk about.
For those of you that are watching, keep in mind you can always rewind it and see the entire episode in its entirety at any given time.
Yep. All right, Dennis, so wrap us up, and we'll talk to you next week.
Excellent. Not a problem. Everybody have a great week.
Thank you for listening to ISP Radio. We hope you've gained new insights and additional wisdom in our industry as well as your business. Please remember to visit our show sponsors via the links on ispradio.com. If you're interested in becoming a show sponsor, contact us at sales@ispradio.com. Now go out there and push those packets as fast as you can. Good luck and Godspeed.